Hey, Pobs, hit me with a fat beat, bro.
Oh, right across the jaw.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the new Ultimatum podcast.
Fresh for your ass.
That's
Fresh. It's new. It's rebranded.
We keep trying.
Yes. All right.
If you don't get 1 million listeners within the first week, the first time, rebrand and start all over.
All right, Pops, cut to my face, please. All right, hi. I'm Alex G-NOP.
Cut to my face. Mine.
I'm Alex G-NOP. I'm here
Get up.
with...
I'm Jack Roberts. Cut to my face. I'm Jack Roberts.
And we have a very special guest host, our good friend, and her name is...
Angelique.
Hi, Angelique.
Hey guys.
Welcome
What's
to
going on?
Welcome to my
How you doing?
apartment that I still have
Some things never
for the
change.
time being.
Some things are never rebranded.
Cheers to that.
So, guys, welcome to our new podcast. We are Ultimatum Pictures. Me and Jack Roberts and friends. We are
And co.
we are an indie filmmaking
I'm
group
Co.
in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we've had several podcasts in the past, haven't we, Jack
Indie
Roberts?
movie cast.
Yeah. So,
We've been doing this, our first podcast, Indie Movie Cast, that was about 10 years ago.
So this is the adventures of Alex trying to find an audience.
I given up a long time ago, but I hang out
Hey,
here.
I have lots of podcasting
And you know what?
equipment,
Let's do it.
so I'm going to keep recording myself until somebody cares.
When we did this originally 10 years ago, we used to call each other via phone. We bought these headsets, and we would do it on the internet, but via headsets in separate rooms, separate houses.
And that didn't work that good.
It never worked out. Sometimes we have to do the whole podcast a second time because the first time it didn't record.
So if you are following me and Jack Roberts, you may have seen our old podcast. We had one recently called Cosmic Mediocrity.
Yeah,
And-
that was getting people down.
And the reason why
want that.
Yeah, we are rebranding because that was a podcast about how frustrated I was with the cosmos for making life so mediocre.
That's my everyday.
It kind of turned
But
into,
not anymore.
I did it as a joke, but it kind of turned a little bit too
Got a little too close to home.
yeah, it got a little bit too whiny, I think,
Yes.
and it got a little too serious and political, and I don't want to be a political
You're
person.
not a pundit.
Pundits known because I learned a long time ago. For one, nobody cares about my opinion.
True.
Yeah, and number two,
Consider Angelique one of them.
and number
I mean,
two,
I care about opinions, but everyone's got one, right?
right. Yeah. So this podcast, I want to rebrand it. I want to just focus on us being us, and we're usually fun-loving, funny people.
Yeah,
right?
we're actually not bad.
Yeah, I mean, usually we're like the life of the party. Mm-hmm. Back when parties existed.
Yeah. Don't bring us down, man. Don't slip back into that mediocrity,
No,
dude.
no, mediocrity. No.
Now we're just the life of life.
Yeah, the life of life.
Yeah.
Yes, until parties can come back.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have some. And Angelique, I wanted to bring you on because one, I like you, and two, when I pitched this to you,
You're pretty neat.
You said to me, I just want to do stuff.
It's true.
And I get that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I want to do too. I want to do stuff. So
Yeah.
this is me doing stuff, guys. I'm trying, and I'm trying for all of you. I'm trying to get like some content out there, some positivity.
Indeed.
Yeah, when you're sitting at the house, need something to do, pop us on. Listen to our smooth, sultry voices.
Our melodic voices.
Having a good time.
We always got a fat beat in the background.
This is a slightly new setup too. Now we can see each other.
Yes, yeah,
That's kinda fun.
yeah. We could see each other now. I restructured the whole apartment to make this a more of a studio, and I'm super excited. So, Ultimatum Pictures, we are Jack and I have been making movies since the days of public access TV.
You and Don Schrader.
Oh yeah, Don
No,
Schrader was on back in those days.
Yeah, if you guys are Albuquerqueños, you may remember Jack Roberts.
Oh
and
yeah,
I
we were
from back in
pretty
the day.
popular. There was a good 5 or 6 years after we went off the air or we stopped our show where people would come up to us and be like, "Hey, you're on that public access," or any Sasquatch sightings. We had a lot of inside jokes that we did on the show, and people would come up to us for years after saying how much they loved it.
And
we got a lot of 15-year-old boys through high school.
No, you're
Nice.
right. And
Local celebrities.
no, that's my
Seriously.
point. We used to have an audience, so
Yeah.
I want to find this audience again. We're still here. We're still.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, and I loved that back then. That was literally 20 years ago. But we're still
What, 2002, 2003?
Yeah, something like that. It was like 18, 19 years ago. But since then, guys, it's not like we haven't. That's the last thing we did. Jack and I have been making shorts for a long time. We have, if you go to ultimatumpictures.com, you'll see a lot of our short films. We are indie filmmakers, and we used to have a podcast called Indie Movie Cast, where we gained a little bit of an audience. Where we
Did we? What was our audience back then? What kind of? I know we had a couple people from Chicago listening to us.
Well,
and
we
a couple people.
had some people who reached out, and that was the early days of podcasting.
Yeah, we were
you know.
doing this before Joe Rogan was doing it.
That was before.
Believe it or not.
That was before even YouTube.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, so we know what we're doing. I think. I mean,
It's just hard. It's just hard to stick with it.
Well,
right?
and
that's the hardest thing.
Well, it'll be easier if people like us and we do this. But the last podcast, we were doing it at the beginning of the pandemic, which I don't want to talk about because
That's not positive.
It's not positive,
No.
and yeah.
Well, before that, we tried it maybe even a year before that as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just tough.
Anyway, so we keep trying.
But we're
And
here.
you know-
We're here.
It's okay. We keep trying. We keep improving. We keep learning. This is what life is, right?
Yeah.
It's just
I mean-
talking BS and having a good time with peeps. You were gonna
Yeah.
say something.
Oh,
so.
I mean, my grandpa always said, you get up one more time, then you're knocked down. Like
you go.
you're always gonna win, and you guys, you're winners. You really are, and you're super
Well-
likable guys. And I have a feeling that audience has been looking for you, just like you've been looking for them.
I hope so.
That's
and
what
We'll
I-
see what happens.
Yeah.
And I don't want to manifest any mediocrity. I don't, this whole law of attraction thing that people talk about.
Yeah.
The hippy dippy stuff. That there's something to that.
Yeah.
I know the things that I've really wanted, I've gotten somehow. In one way or another. Like I've always wanted to work in the movies, and I got that wish granted. And with spades, and
Yeah.
and now I want to make a movie. We are going to make a movie called Cosmic Blanca, right, Jack Roberts?
That's the rumor.
Okay, so I wrote a sci-fi parody of Casablanca
Ooh,
called Cosmic Blanca.
I like it.
Do you?
I
Okay.
do.
Yeah. So I hope that's a general reaction to it. People who I think I've mentioned this to think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so we have a cool script, and we're about to do crowdfunding. So that's another reason why I got rid of Cosmic Mediocrity, because I said some weird things in that podcast.
So we're keeping the cosmic, right? We're just going into like Cosmic
yeah.
Blanca.
It's always cosmic here,
Yeah.
around here. Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
mediocrity is gone. We're aiming for excellence.
Yeah, cosmic excellence is what we're aiming for. That's our ultimatum. That or nothing.
Yes.
So
Full circle, everyone.
Mike
Full
and I-
circle.
We don't
on
know
that.
how to do anything else. Literally, it's not like I can bail out of this now and go be an engineer or something.
Well, and I've been working in the film business, and so have you, Angelique.
Yeah, for a moment.
Yeah, we're from the film world. That's how we met.
It's true.
And that was a crazy job in the first place. And these days, it's even crazier. I mean, it's hard.
I don't know how it's sustainable to work in the film industry right now. It's insane.
It's expensive. Well, it's always been expensive, but now.
Well, what were they
with
saying? 20 to 30% of the budget nowadays goes to
The health precautions.
health precautions.
Is that what they say? That's insane.
Something like that. Maybe 20 to 30, maybe 10 to 20.
Yeah.
But it's a high number now.
Well, it's a thing. So if anybody works in the film business, you'll know that work has gotten a little bit weirder here. We have to do health tests, and health is the big issue. And it didn't used to be like that. So in the indie world, you know, we can make our own movie. We would still be completely healthy, but it'd be a much smaller production, much easier
smaller.
to contain.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my goal with Cosmic Blanca, is to make a cool indie.
Keep it safe, as you know, and keep it small. And
yeah.
You can have your own
Trudge
pod,
along.
basically, of people when you have a smaller project.
Sure.
You know,
family.
That's what it is. You know, you work on smaller projects, you really come out feeling like a family. I
I
mean,
don't know. Him and I, we
it's
do
nice.
it all the time. We make movies. 5, 6, 7 people. I mean, you know, when we kind of got back into making movies a few years ago, we had like nobody. And they still come out really well. You know, it's just, you have to know what you're doing, I think, sometimes. But
yeah.
Well, you know, you don't need to have a lot to make a movie. I mean, these days, I mean, anybody can do it, it seems like, on their phones and stuff. But, you know, it's more about telling a story, in my opinion. You know, I fancy myself as a writer, and that's what I want. That's what I want to do, is put out the stories that are good. So, you know, we got a lot on our... we did pretty well last year. 2019 was a great year for us. Our short won the 48-hour film project, which was something I've been aspiring to since
2007 or 8. We've been making these 48-hour film projects every summer.
And then, you know,
Nice.
it's like
Always get so close to you know, the grand prize, but never always falling short one way or another.
yeah. So that's who we are, Angelique.
But we did it last year.
Angelique, who are you? You're a cool you're a cool Pequeño, and you've been doing costumes in the movies, right?
That's true.
What's that like?
Well, you know, costume life is an interesting life because you basically help form the character. So when, you know, you read about a character on a page, you see, you know, something in your mind, and then of course someone's cast. Sometimes it matches what you envision, sometimes it doesn't, and then bringing all of that to life is, you know, kind of like the process, speaking with all the different departments, making the, you know, call as to like if something's going to stand out with the setting, or if it's going to match, or, you know, you have so many different like facets of how costumes are done. Also, I don't know, I would say like I tend to do stuff that tends to be either period costumes, like, you know, historical type stuff, which that's always interesting to delve into the, you know, backstory.
So you've done the westerns and stuff like that in town, or?
I've done westerns, I've done things set in the 40s, I've done a project that was actually not in the state, but it was set in 1774 through like 1778, stuff in the 60s. You know, it's kind of my thing.
Wait, how did you get into it?
Funny story.
Because I actually don't know if I know this.
You don't know this story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, basically, the way that I got into it, I was actually, you know, I was in college taking film classes, things like that. Working.
You were taking film classes in college?
Yeah.
But okay, her and I went to college. This is how I met her. I met her in
weightlifting
class.
Yeah, that's an
We would hang out.
elective.
But I was taking film classes, and I had no idea. Maybe we were in different years. Maybe you were like taking different. But I never met you in a single film class, so I had no idea.
Yeah.
You were taking film classes. We only had the weightlifting, and so it was always
Yep.
a surprise to me, like later on, that you were in the movies. And I was like, really? I know her from
That weightlifting
from
chick?
weightlifting, but I didn't know. I honestly did not know you were in film classes. That's funny. Continue.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, you can tell my powerlifting career did not take off, guys.
Neither did
I just
mine.
want to, I don't know. Can you see me on camera?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fit, but
Yeah.
like,
I like to drink and eat, so it's
Yeah.
hard working out.
yeah, but
Well, at least you went to college for it, and you learned about it, right?
Yeah, I know of.
Yeah, you know what weights are and how you don't want to lift them.
Now,
Yeah.
like,
I know that if I learned that if I
yeah.
do that exercise,
That has something to do with calves, and
Yeah.
that hurts.
yeah. But that was the genius, is you were getting
How
credit.
strange. I didn't know
for
you were
that.
taking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, taking film classes, working, you know, like 3 jobs, 2 different restaurants, and also actually I was doing makeup for MAC Cosmetics at the time, and basically on my time off in between working doubles, there was a vintage clothing store next door, which if you're from Albuquerque, you probably know. It's down here on Central off Broadway.
Oh,
Place is amazing,
yeah.
absolutely fantastic. vintage clothing, just saying. And so I'd go over there on my breaks and I'd try clothes on. I'd learn about, all the different fabrics and eras and things like that. And then that was right around when the tax incentives were first starting to come to New Mexico.
Right. What year was that? That
was 2005 or 6. Yeah. And so
yeah, something
that
like
sounds
that.
about right.
Yeah. So how'd you get your foot in the door?
So basically, I actually I was taking film and theater classes, and with my theater brain, I was really good at memorizing orders. And so I could party trick was that I could basically take 10 top, of orders without writing it down, and bring everything out and not mess it up. And so that was like this big deal apparently with these people that kept coming in. And then I started talking to them, and it turns out that they were producers for a project that was in town. They were here for, I think, Around the Bend. Do you guys remember that? It was Christopher Walken. And,
Yeah.
Yes.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Who else was in? Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Josh Lucas.
Yes. And Josh Lucas.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was.
I think I was an extra in that.
Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah.
I think so.
That's funny.
And so they kept on coming in and requesting my section. They're like, this chick, she never writes anything down, but she always gets the orders right.
Oh, wow.
Little did I know that, I guess, was the good sign of like a PA, but at the time I'm just like, great, cool. There's people who keep coming and requesting my section.
That was at Off Broadway that you met him?
No. So here's how the two intersect.
Okay.
So basically, working at Vivace was the Italian restaurant. It's not there anymore.
I remember it,
Yeah, and Off Broadway was next door. Between those two places, there was also some women who were costumers who were working there around Halloween time. And so once I figured out that those guys were producers and they were telling me, oh yeah, we're here in town for this and that. And I said, oh wow, I'm taking film classes and theater. I want to get involved. I have other friends, whatever. They're like, tell everyone you know that ever says that they want, or that they work in film, that you want to PA. And I was like, okay.
Good advice.
Yeah, I was like, what does that even mean? And they're
What
like,
does that mean?
production assistant. They're like, do you have like a craft or something? I'm like, well, I do makeup and I know a lot about vintage clothes.
Well, let me ask you this before you continue. When you were taking film classes, you were interested in working in movies, or not really? You liked movies in general, but
I was interested in film in general.
did you have something that you were aspiring to be? Was it always costumes, or was it something else, or you?
That's a great question. I think it was just one of those things that I knew I wanted to do something creative with my life that was
In movies.
narrative storytelling
Yeah.
that was either theater or film. But as I started as a theater major, I realized film was kind of more where I wanted to go, because I wanted to travel and, kind of just experience like all different
but you
locations
didn't know
and
what
things.
department, I guess?
No,
Right?
I kind of had an inkling that I wanted to do either costumes or
Okay.
makeup. And the
Yeah.
thing that I like about costumes was more the historical aspects of stuff and or like the fantasy elements, like futuristic stuff, working on Marvel things, stuff like that. Makeup was not as much not as intriguing, because most of the time you make people look natural or you make them
Unless
look
you do, like,
dead
special
or
effects
gore
makeup.
or
Yeah.
something like
Right.
that. And I kind of like, if I was going to go the makeup route, I would have done like a runway type of makeup or something. So
Cool. So I love that story. I mean, my story is kind of similar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
basically, I'm a local too. And I wanted to work in the movies. I wanted to go to LA, and then around 2005, the movies came here. So I take full credit in manifesting it.
Nice.
First of all, for everybody. No, I was kidding. But the movies.
Well, it was very bizarre because him and I were into it and into making movies, and then all of a sudden, you had like the Flicks on 66, which brought a lot of people together, and then all of a sudden, tax incentives were starting to go out and that sort of thing. It just kind of it was very bizarre that we wanted to make movies, and then suddenly they're here.
And so
yeah,
I
agree.
And I was in a kind of a dark place in my life. I basically dropped out of college and had nothing going for me. And I was working at my family's restaurant, which is Lindy's on 5th and Central, still there.
Still there.
Yeah, and
Go check it out.
I was cooking back there, and and a movie was being made on the hotel above us, which was an old
Was that
hotel.
that Suspect Zero?
It was a Richard Gere movie.
Oh,
called,
yes.
Oh God,
Yeah,
what was
it was a
called?
thriller, or
Richard
supposedly.
Gere movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
God, what was it called?
Oh,
I'll think about it. But anyway,
we need somebody here to like look up.
Hold on. Okay, I'm looking it up right now.
So this Richard Gere movie was and I had a friend who was in the restaurant just turning on and off the
Yes.
the the release of the air in the kitchen.
Yes.
For the sound.
Yep.
And I was just like, God, I want that job.
And you got it.
Yeah. And so then basically,
I thought, but Suspect Zero was the first one, right?
now Suspect Zero came and I was an extra in that. But then a mini series called The Lost Room.
Yeah.
Yes, I
remember that.
love that show.
And when that
should have been a series, but
Really
it never
should have been.
took off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was my first show, and basically that show was shooting at Lindy's as well. And my uncle, God bless him, he told the location manager, get my nephew a job. You know, so I was kind of a political hire.
Yeah.
And
But you
yeah.
just happened, like if the guy was a camera department guy, get my nephew a job,
Yeah.
you would have been working camera.
So I got into the location part. I didn't even know what the locations department was. If you don't know, it's the people who manage the locations.
Find and manage and scout.
And so I was hired on for 5 days. As a locations PA. I didn't know what that was. You know, the first thing they had me do was help a bunch of people at America Tent Rentals haul up an air conditioner up a staircase in the Crest Building, and I was just trying to help out any way I could. That job was for 5 days. I ended up staying there for 5 months. There was some huge turnover in the department, and by the end, I was kind of the acting
For Lost Room?
Yeah, I was kind of the acting assistant location manager, with not getting the pay for it type of thing. And then one job led to another after that, and my first scouting job as a location scout was a strange pilot that came to town called Breaking Bad. And that was my first job, like looking for things. And then I kind of established myself as one of the, Albuquerque scouts. And then I became a location manager. And that's my story in a nutshell until the world ended.
And here we are, podcasting.
And so, speaking of that, I don't want to get any negative, of course, but what do you think, guys, about okay, so when I was growing up, movies were everything, and media was everything. And I know I'm saying my age here, but I'm not old. I actually am old enough when there was only 4 channels, but cable came out when I was a little boy, I guess.
Back in the day, it was called Jones Intercable.
Yeah, but so whatever. Anyway, everybody had the same 30 channels or something.
We didn't have cable.
Yeah, most people didn't have cable, but back in those days, you would go to school, and if Indiana Jones played as a Sunday night movie, everybody watched it.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about it the next day.
Oh.
Yeah.
And when a movie
Wizard of Oz was on every year.
Yeah, and when a movie hit the theaters,
Christmas Story.
when a movie hit the theaters in the 80s and 90s, it was an event. Everybody went. That's when the summer blockbuster came to life. And nowadays it's different. And I was talking to some young people at your house the other day, Angelique, when you were not having a party, and they just I felt like I was talking to aliens. They were really nice, but they grew up in a world where media is different than it was for us. It's not like you could just say, "Hey, I worked on Breaking Bad," and they get it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that show." Maybe because they can watch anything from anywhere.
Oh, I see.
It's not just.
Well, there's so much saturation. There's like so much.
So
stuff.
in America, we used to be all kind of be on the same plane as media. Everybody in the country used to see the same thing. And now it's very much not. It's
so many services.
Yeah, and there's
streaming services.
And there's a lot of like, oh, what are you watching? Oh, I'm watching The Boys. Oh, what's on that's on Amazon. What are you watching? I'm watching this thing on Netflix. And so we try to but it's much smaller. It's not like everybody sees everything at the same time. In fact, nobody does.
Right.
Because when I was growing up, it used to be like, The Mummy came out. If you didn't see that over the weekend, you don't know. You have nothing to talk about in school the next day. And you're not with it. So it was everything to me. And I think that's all but gone. I think that we're going into the age of Aquarius, and it's going to be very different as far as media goes. It's gonna, it already is, and I think the whole outbreak, the whole craziness, and because I feel very lucky that I lived in Albuquerque during the whole flourishing decade of movie making. I'm not gonna say it's dead. It's definitely not dead. They're still making stuff, but it's weird now. It's definitely weird. It's not the same, and I don't.
What's not the same? The actual production of making it, or
Everything.
the consumption? Well,
the production and the consumption. You know what I mean? We're living in the first year of my life where there's like not much new TV on.
Well, you were probably saying that you knew a friend who's like, oh, I finished Netflix. What else?
Yeah,
Who was saying that? Yeah.
That there was literally a few people that posted on Facebook at not even that far into quarantine, I would say, or not even quarantine, but like, this year. It was like maybe May. And like, anyone else finished Netflix?
Yeah, tackled it.
Like, anything else to watch?
And,
But
and it's weird because you used to be able to like flip channels and like just like catch a show and
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah.
But now it's like you go to Netflix and it's like you look at these shows and it's like, I don't think I want to commit to that. I don't think I want to commit to that. You know.
Or when you do, you can watch everything instantaneously. Like one of my biggest like peeves with everything is everything goes into your eyeballs, but there's no process. It's just like it's just consumption, and then once that's done, another thing, just like consuming something else. There's no process. There's no thought. There's no breakdown of what you just saw. I think back in the day, because there's probably so fewer things to watch, or when you had to watch it on a weekly basis, you got to actually absorb it, maybe get into the world a little bit more, maybe, we're excited for something. Now you're just inundated, and it's just so quick, and it spills out your brain as fast as it's going in there, because who cares?
And yeah, exactly. And
that's what bugs me.
And I forget shows more than I,
Yep.
And I think these shows are made to be forgettable almost.
And binge watching, for one hand, I love it, because, it's nice not to wait week after week to see what happens next. But on the other hand, you kind of forget. There's
some stuff that's like really good too, and you're just like, yeah, I burned through that, and I don't remember anything. It's.
What about video stores, guys?
Yeah, what about that?
Speaking about stuff that like you forget about, right? Like it's like forget about a show, that sort of thing. Like think about like how articulate. Like you would go into a store, you'd read the back of everything, or you'd go to a section that had a director that you really loved, or an actor or something, and just like you'd talk to the video clerk,
looking at the little pictures on the back of it in the horror movie section, like, oh my gosh, that's so scary.
Yeah, like that they're gonna tell you about some film that you've never heard of before, or something like that. Like those are actually, I find, harder to find that type of like recommendation from the video store person. Like you don't get that on Netflix. Even when Netflix is like, hey, we suggest these things for you, and I'm like, hey, can I see your Netflix? Oh wait, it's the exact same stuff recommended to
just
Jack Roberts
in
a different order than it is for me or you, Alex. Like I'm like, really? We all watch the exact? No, we don't. We don't.
What if there was like a Netflix or some kind of app like that kind of gave you that experience? Like, here is the A section, and you can just look at the videos and virtually switch to the back. I mean, I think our generation might be cool with that, but I think
making it feel more like a video store.
Yeah, but I think the young people at your party would be like, "What is this?"
I did not have a party, by the way. No, I didn't.
It wasn't a party. It was a small get together.
It was like,
super small. Small and safe, and didn't even happen. I'm sorry if your friends with it. And so the video thing. So I feel kind of lucky, guys. I mean, I feel lucky that I was born in 1980 and not in 2008, because I got to experience the video store thing. I actually worked in a video store. I worked at Hastings. It was a big part of that, and it was really cool, and it was everything. But now what I worry about is the theater experience is all maybe dying.
So
I don't know.
sad.
It's and I don't think it'll die, because these theaters are gonna be there. You know what I mean? Even if they shut down these companies and they're nothing for 2 years, at some point they're gonna open up and be something, whether they're become concert venues or what, but I don't know.
Hopefully they rebrand and find their audience.
You don't know what you don't know what you're gonna miss until it's gone, right?
Right.
And so I helped a friend move to LA a few months back, and we had to drive through Phoenix, and I made it a point. Hey, we're gonna go see a movie. We saw Tenet, and we got to see it in the theater, and it was something else. It was wild. It was just like,
so
it felt cool. So nostalgic. So be in the theater.
If this whole let's be cosmically, guys. If this whole crisis pandemic thing that we're going through was meant to be. Type of thing to shift us into the age of Aquarius, you know.
This age of Aquarius has been happening for a while. Are we
Okay.
in it yet or not? I don't get.
We're in it, guys.
It was the
Somebody's gonna have to explain this to me.
but anyway, we're shifting into whatever. You know, I don't know what it is, but you know, if it's a meant to be thing, if this isn't just, you know, if we're not just monkeys on a plane and there's kind of a orchestra, we're in a simulation, whatever you want to say, it does seem kind of convenient that almost every movie franchise completed in 2019, right? It's like,
God, thank
it's
goodness we got to see Endgame and Infinity War.
No, exactly. It's like, wow, the Avengers
That was
completed.
nice.
Star Wars Episode 9, which my whole life I never thought that would ever happen. We got the 9
all right,
movies.
done.
Yeah, they're not good, but it happened. Yeah, you know,
Same as the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah,
Not very good, but we got it.
all these. There's not very many loose ends on the franchises.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
alright.
Harry Potter is pretty much
Done?
done. Yeah, you know they're you know they're trying to get more.
Done, yeah.
It's like. You know, it seems like we're ready for a shift. Yeah, whatever that may be. Yeah,
That's an excellent point.
Yeah,
That is an excellent
Yeah,
point.
I mean, it's
Let's close up. We don't need any more Marvel movies because they
It's like-
finished it.
it's
They
like-
wrapped it
it's
up,
like-
and it was
I
good.
worked on the first Avengers, guys.
Yeah, that
Did you
shot
hear
here.
it too?
That shot in Albuquerque.
Yeah, that was shot in Albuquerque.
Yeah, I mean, it's like God was like watching. He was like, okay, I'm not going to release this this flu until Christmas.
Everybody gets to
Christmas-
see the
yeah.
last Avengers
Okay,
movie.
until Rise of Skywalker. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to happen.
Because
and-
God knew it's not going to get any better.
But also, he needed to give people some clues on how to like fight
Yeah.
against a common enemy. You
Yeah.
know, like who knows, like what the rest
I mean,
of
and
life is going to be in the next couple months, weeks, years.
I mean, these movies that are hanging, you know, that these movies that are hanging that are being pushed till next year. It's like.
Yeah.
James Bond, it's like that ended a while ago too, you know. I mean, yeah. So I mean, maybe it's all meant to be. Maybe it's all leading us to something great. I don't know. I want to be optimistic here.
Yeah.
But I do mourn these things like the video store experience and the movie theater experience. It's like will I mean I just remember it's just the energy. You know, in these experiences, you know, it's not the
Remember
same.
when you went to go rent a movie and they were all rented out and you're so
Yes.
bummed out? But when one was available because your dad finally took you to the store earlier in the morning
Yeah.
before everybody rented that shit?
Yeah.
How exciting it was.
I mean,
or somebody comes back and drops one off right as you're about to check out,
I've done
and
that
you
one.
eagle eye it, and
Yeah.
you see it, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Hey," you like make friends
You're
with
like,
the clerk
"Oh,
just so that they'll
yeah.
put stuff aside
Or
for
what
you.
about-
What? Enemy Mine is available? Let's get it.
or what about seeing a movie opening night
Oh,
in
yeah.
a theater full of people who are
Packed.
excited to see it just as you.
Yeah.
And every joke gets a laugh.
Yes.
Everything is just, you know, I remember like movies like Dumb and Dumber or
Yeah.
Something About Mary. I just remember just in a theater full of a crowd of uproarious laughter and laughing so hard that my stomach hurt. That does not happen when you watch it on your computer. Or at
No.
Oh, American
No.
Pie
Yeah.
in a theater, in a movie.
Yeah, when it's
Going
new,
experience
when it's
is
new,
hilarious.
when it's
Yeah.
new.
I've never laughed so hard. Yes,
Yeah,
you're
in
right.
1999,
I'll tell you
yeah.
what would be popping strong if they didn't tear these things down. But who could foresee is like drive-ins, those big ass drive-ins.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I saw Ninja Turtles
Yeah.
in the drive-in, the original one, right?
Well, the drive-in-
I saw
it's-
like
and
Back to the Future 3 in a drive-in. It was
and
fantastic.
this weird
Nice.
like new resurgence of the drive-in is, I mean, it's not the same because
No.
Well, no, but because they're in parking lots and
Well, I mean-
they're not.
because the
They're
drive-in.
appropriating them.
I mean,
as,
the drive-ins kind
Yeah.
of died
Movie
because
theaters.
they're hard to sustain because the movies.
Well,
can
nobody
only-
went to 'em, right?
Well, I mean, no, people went to them, but they could only play the movie once every evening when it got dark. You know,
Yeah, sure, sure.
whereas a movie theater
Once
can
or
play
twice,
it all
yeah,
day
yeah.
long. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, it's expensive to put these things on with new movies. Now they have these weird makeshift drive-ins now with like old movies. They do it in the parking lot across the street from my apartment here. You know, and it's not that big of a screen. You know, it's a big screen, but the drive-in screen used to be gigantic. You
Yeah.
know?
It's
and,
huge.
you know, and they play old movies, and I would segue up to see what they're playing, and they're playing.
But do you remember back then in those driveways or the drive-ins when you were watching a movie, but you would look over and you would see like other movies playing, you're like, oh, what's that movie? Like maybe a horror movie was going on over there, and you were secretly kind of trying to watch that, looking for something to happen, or over here where they're making out on another screen.
Yep.
So those are good times.
So optimistically, I would say, you know, people still want this. You know,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's, you know, and movie theaters came from theater.
Yeah.
You know, that was their first. People would gather and watch a play or a show. You know, and
vaudeville.
And vaudeville and shows, and you know, and
Took me a minute.
As a show.
and just how long this whole thing is lasting worries me for the next generation, for those kids at that place. We know that wasn't a party, you know, because it's like, you know, we're ready to go back to that. If our crazy governor opens the theaters ever, I'm going to be first in line. I don't care if I get sick or what.
You're going to buy the biggest, most
Who's
expensive bag of popcorn.
Yeah, but
all the butters.
But really though, who sits immediately next to someone in a theater unless you know that person? No.
Unless you're forced to, because it's a packed night. Yeah.
Right, a packed night, totally different. But like a movie theater has control over that. Most theaters now, like in big cities, you pick your seats.
You pick your seat. You gotta go
buy it on
online,
Fandango or, you know, one of those sort of things. So it's like,
well, I think theaters would do that absolutely
doesn't
here.
compute.
They were doing it in Phoenix. That was exactly the way. It's just like, okay,
theaters
these seats are not available, but all these seats are for sure.
That seems logical.
Theaters are open in most of the country. Yeah, I mean,
Or one of 4 states.
We would get there 1 hour, 2 hours before.
New Mexico is a very
Standing
weird
in line.
state. What happened to Fat Beats, Bob?
Holy smokes.
New Mexico's
Fat Beats.
Oh man, we're fat chatting. We're fat chatting right here. You don't need a beat.
But I wonder if I wonder about the kids growing up, if they're just going to be deprived of this experience and they're not going to think it's that fun, and they're going to be like, what's the point? You know, I can even watch it at home.
You mean you have to stand in line?
Yeah, and why would I want to sit in a theater full of people and, you know, who could get me sick and
me.
But that's just like change. I mean,
there you go.
Trying to be positive but also realistic on this. You know, it's like, I am sure that there is people who still like appreciate watching TV on a black and white TV that is not digital. You know.
Hey guys, as filmmakers, as filmmakers,
not
some people.
As filmmakers, how do we feel about this? Like, we've never had we're pushing to make a feature film. Would love to see any one of our feature films on the big screen, like a main big screen, not like going to the local big screen, which is great. We have a couple like really great theaters here that show a lot of indie stuff, a lot of local stuff. That's cool. But like, to have it in a theater where like people are coming, how does that make you feel if that sort of thing changes as being movie makers? It's like, it's cool, it's going to be streaming, somebody's going to watch it on their iPhone, rad. But, you know, us a little bit more old school, we want to go and see it on a big ass screen,
and the
right?
filmmakers, Scorsese and David Lynch, they spoke out against watching their films on phones and stuff.
Right. There's a bunch of memes that came out about that.
You know,
and Christopher Nolan is like, you know,
and I get
still trying to make it,
and I get that because
big screen.
Because, you know, especially when it's a movie that's kind of complicated, or a movie that's kind of weird, or a movie that takes some thought. Sometimes being in the theater
void of distractions
makes you appreciate it.
A dark, cool movie.
No,
theater,
because look, if there's a joke that you didn't get, but you hear people laughing. It's like, oh,
you perk up and try to pay more attention,
or you say, oh, that was funny. You know what I mean? And then when you rewatch it, you get, oh, now I get it. You know what I mean? But when you just watch it at home, you're like, whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, there's so much content that, you know, when we're watching it, it just goes into our brain and exits in real time.
So Cosmic Blanca, as a filmmaker, yes, I would say I would love to make this movie and have a theatrical release, even if it's a small one, you know, because as a filmmaker, I mean, I haven't made a feature yet, but I made 20 shorts, and watching them in the theaters is so satisfying for me. It's, you know,
even when we do our 48 our project movies, you know, some movies good, some some whatever.
Yeah.
It still feels good. There's an audience there.
It's great.
and you feel that connection. You feel that energy, that vibe.
And interestingly
Totally.
enough, I've been, in the whole lockdown, I've been watching lots of weird stuff. I've been watching a lot of old Dick Cavett interviews.
Yeah.
And Dick Cavett, he was, if you guys don't know, he used to have a talk show where he would interview people, and it was long form interviews, kind of like Joe Rogan does now. Like, it was a long conversation. It wasn't just a snippet type of thing,
Yeah.
So there's these interviews with these really famous people that are just on YouTube now that are pretty fascinating. And he used to interview Orson Welles, and Orson Welles refused to see his movies in his theater full of people.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
Did he say why he didn't like to?
Yeah, he said why. I don't remember, but it just seemed that
Maybe like a little bit of.
I mean, he was a little.
Yeah.
He was
doubt or embarrassment.
But I don't see why he wouldn't absorb that. I love that. I mean, actors, I get it. Some actors I can't watch myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've acted,
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I can watch myself, but I get it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
Especially because lots of actors are very insecure people.
Sure.
And they're self critics. Like, oh,
But I think that's sort of the
But they're also
beauty
being
of
criticized on a regular basis
But
too. It's
I think that's the beauty of it, because I think you have to watch it, and it's great in a movie because like all those things that you're biting your nails, like, oh my gosh, I could have done so much better. I could have done so much better. Oh, I could have. But like the audience doesn't necessarily know that, and then you kind of almost loosen up if they're like really vibing with it, and that kind of feels good. But at the same time, you're just like, oh, if I just had more time to tweak that, if I could have just shot that a little bit better.
I get that.
As
I get
makers,
that.
we're gonna be like that, but it still feels good to like come in with all those inhibitions, but still share it.
Oh, and also
with an
also
audience,
when
because
you-
a human made these things.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
when you see it with the audience, those inhibitions sometimes go away.
Yes.
It's like,
That's
oh,
what I'm saying,
I
yes.
guess that wasn't that bad. I
Yes.
guess that did get a laugh. Oh, I guess I don't have to change that scene.
Yes.
And so I think Orson Welles was depriving himself, and you wouldn't see that in other medium,
Correct, yeah.
like a musician. It's all about the audience. You know what I mean? They release their albums, but it's all about playing live and playing Coachella. Hopefully it'll happen again. There's not. I've never heard of a musician saying,
Sometimes they do.
"Oh,
that,
I
right?
never want to. I don't like watching people enjoy my music." It's like,
I don't know. Some musicians I bet are like that, but yeah.
I have never heard of one like that, and I've never really heard of a filmmaker like that besides Orson Welles. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Yeah, no, that's strange, and you wonder if Orson Welles was in more of this sort of time frame, where I think that's so valuable, and it's so.
well, and he was also in a world where there was no video. You had to see it in a theater.
He was one of the fortunate ones who could get any picture made and have it on a movie screen.
Well, I mean,
he was not everything, but he was fortunate enough to
he's famously the person who did everything he wanted with Citizen Kane, but every other movie after that was not his.
phoned it, yeah.
Not phoned in. He had problems with studios
right.
people telling him what to do and change, and he felt like he never made his he never made a movie. He was
Actually, I've seen a couple movies after that, and nothing really does on a technical level live up to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a reason it's a classic.
Well, and that goes into movie history and studios messing with things,
Sure,
and
yeah.
and there's lots of filmmakers who have Kubrick famously was would just do his own thing and ignore what the studios were saying. And some people you could call that lucky, but I think a lot of it was his personality.
Yeah.
And just the films he made were so successful that he could do what he wanted. So it's sad when people like Robert Zemeckis could probably have that power, but he decides to, try to make a moneymaker type of thing like The Witches.
Which is very bizarre because, he has it in him, or he has the clout to make something. He can make another Forrest Gump.
But
he's too. I think he's just too wowed by the visual effects. I think he's probably one of those people who wants to be on set the least, but be in the digital computer room the most. Sitting back, drinking Diet Cokes, and
also
I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
And also a lot of it. Zemeckis and people who do the studio films. A lot of it's like they live in LA. They're very comfy. They always want to go to a studio and go home every night.
Yeah, studio, in the post room. That's cool. Yeah.
And that's kind of sad. Because Kubrick, he worked. He only made 8 films or whatever, and he every one of them he put his blood, sweat, and tears in. I think Oliver Stone is another.
Tarantino, maybe.
Yeah. People who those are artists, and what we were saying about Hollywood changing, and things, it kind of got to a point, in the past few years where there's only like 6 directors out there. There's like 6 there's 6 writer directors. There's Wes Anderson, Oliver Stone. Everything else is just studio churning out things. And it's like if you wanted to work your way up, and it's like you're gonna have to direct Smurfs 2, and doesn't even matter, and so whatever this cosmic shift is, I'm trying to be optimistic. I hope it's for the better. Indie films have kind of died. It was a huge thing in the 90s.
Well, did you read about like what David Fincher is talking about that too? There's no market for these more medium head pieces, these think pieces, anymore. And Netflix is taking up, but it's not like Netflix is taking a chance on like people like us with these movies. They'll take a chance on, of course, David Fincher or Alfonso Cuarón or Martin Scorsese, but to make these sort of movies. But yeah, it's either got to be these mega budget, mega insane sort of tentpole movies, or nothing.
And I don't see why Netflix can't have a theatrical run for their own films before they put them on Netflix. I don't, like.
I think they're considering different alternatives, and they're doing that. They're actually, but now they're probably like, we don't even have to bother with what's going on now, so they don't even have to worry.
Because I also worked in an indie theater, the Madstone, when that existed.
I loved the Madstone.
And that was a whole nother culture. Basically, basically indie films and foreign films.
My favorite.
There were people who went to see that, and now those movies exist, but they're all on streaming, and it's lonely watching these. If you watch something completely obscure.
I watch the obscure stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm constantly looking for.
But it's kind of but you're not going to connect. Maybe online you can connect with someone else who's seen it. But if you go to a theater, you can walk out of a theater. You could make friends. You could, what I mean. The Madstone had like a bar outside. I mean, I feel like this had. Yeah, right. I feel like this culture is still out there.
Yeah.
It just has to kind of be reborn.
Violet Crown is a theater, chain that's kind of like Madstone.
I never heard of that.
Well, what is it called?
Violet Crown. There's one in Santa Fe right now, but I know there's also one in Austin.
It's not like a Alamo Draft House or anything.
Totally is.
It kind of it's like that.
Yeah, it totally is.
Or Flix. We have a Flix here, which is sort of that sort of vein. But
I hope that that's the future. Yeah. Like honestly, if we're envisioning what we would like to see instead of like being like, I don't want to be negative about it. Like I like that experience. Like I feel like what Alex was saying of bringing that back. Of where,
I absolutely think it'll come back because everything what is old is new again. So you look at younger generations going out to Urban Outfitters and buying record players and buying Polaroid cameras and stuff like that.
You're speaking like you're like 85 right now.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Like, well, they're my thing, but
my day.
But no, seriously, I my dad had records. I never owned a record in my life, right? I know what they are.
Yeah.
But I'm saying younger people are starting to think that's kind of hip, kind of cool to have that sort of stuff.
That's what I'm talking about. The younger people.
Right,
I don't know what they're thinking these days. And there's I think there's some culturally cool ones, and there's but there's some that are just like, it's not the same world we grew up in. Everybody's not on the same page. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. But different is good.
Different's good though.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. And I mean, I would say the pandemic difference is not good, but but it's hopefully it'll lead to something good.
Yes.
Let's not stay optimistic, guys. But let's, guys, we've talked for almost an hour. I think this is a good first podcast for the Ultimatum podcast. I want
Talking movies again. That's fun.
I want to encourage everybody to please check out cosmicblanca.com. Pops, if you could switch to the screen there. We have a website up. We just started crowdfunding. We're gonna put out a big crowdfunding video soon. Please check a look at it. It's gonna be a fun movie. I know that there's not a lot of money out there. I know people are scraping by, family and friends. I'm not asking for your money, but I'm asking you to pass it over to that rich guy you know, right?
Somebody with deep pockets.
Yeah,
out there.
everybody knows a rich guy.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Or gal.
Yeah.
A rich
girl.
person.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Of course.
A rich.
Just throwing that out there, guys.
Everybody knows a gender fluid CEO somewhere.
Yes,
Everyone knows
please,
someone.
Please tell your rich. I meant guy in the
Anybody
in the
who
plural
has the-
sense.
Guy.
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 Yes, of course. Yes. Yes. Please. I mean, if you have some money, I'd appreciate a donation. We have little perks, but really, I want this to pass this over. I want a Meow Wolf thing. I want this to go to what's his name's desk somehow.
George R. Martin.
George R. Martin.
Yeah.
And I want
Put it out there.
I want someone like that to support us. But I do want to make this independently. I don't want anyone to take it over either. So, but anyway, please check it out. We're real excited about it. I think it's going to be a great experience, and hopefully we will have a movie for you when theaters reopen.
Well, what's cool, if you go on the website, there's already some content, so you're not going to go in there not knowing what our vision is. So we did a promo. You can check that out. We did a few other things. So look at it. We're not total.
We're trying.
We're not total noobs or greenhorns here. We know
and
America did the thing.
And America, just so you know, when everybody was trying, when everybody was depressed, I was depressed too. But and
it was me who lifted everybody's spirits. I came back in and I was like, Alex, get off that ass.
No, the life of life, everyone. The life of life.
I want to tell you, we're
just such a force of positive energy.
If you want to know if people in America are trying, we're trying. So
we're trying.
Yeah. So please, God, we get first something. All right, guys, thank you so much. This is the Ultimatum podcast. I'm Alex G-NOP.
I'm Jack Rizop.
And I'm Angelique.
Okay, and thank you, Pobs, for being our mixer.
With those fat beats, bro.
With the fat beats, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Peace out.
Yeah.
We're out.
CosmicBlanca.com.
Do the things. Make love.
All right.
Chill.
Go ahead and stop, Pobs.
Stop.
Stop.